Elon Musk looks like he is going to be trying to sue the Anti-Defamation League, and potentially he'll be successful in this. Let me just pull up my notes here. So let's start off with this tweet. Elon Musk tweeted out, "To clear our platform's name on the matter of anti-Semitism, it looks like we have no choice but to file a defamation lawsuit against the Anti-Defamation League." Oh, the irony. It is ironic to have to file a defamation lawsuit against the Anti-Defamation League. Now, how did this all start? Elon Musk was liking a bunch of tweets that had to do that were the hashtag of boycott ADL or ban ADL. And Elon Musk started to like a lot of these tweets. So people were asking him a lot of questions about that, why he seemed to be against the ADL. And this is where he started to come out with the reasoning of that. And it turns out the ADL has really harmed Twitter quite a bit by basically getting advertisers to not advertise on the platform until hate speech is under control. And we've been hearing that a lot, right? Oh, get hate speech under control, ban these people, and if you don't, then we're not going to advertise on your platform. Elon goes on to say, to be super clear, so we're going to go through what he has said here. And he says, to be super clear, I'm pro free speech, but against anti-Semitism of any kind. And he says, our U.S., since the acquisition, the ADL has been trying to kill this platform by falsely accusing it and me of being anti-Semitic. Our U.S. advertising revenue is still down 60%, primarily due to pressure on advertisers by ADL. That is what advertisers tell us. So they almost succeeded in killing X/Twitter. That is pretty significant to still have your revenue down by 60%. And he's saying that it's the ADL. Now, the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, is primarily an anti-Semitic, they're trying to stop anti-Semitism. That is their whole entire purpose. They say that they're trying to do it for other groups of people as well, but they primarily focus on anti-Semitism, and they're run by Jonathan Greenblatt. So Elon goes on to say, so he's really unleashing on ADL in this whole entire thing. He goes on to say, our U.S. advertising revenue, so he is down by 60%. Then he says, somebody asks him, will you take action on these false allegations? And he says, if this continues, we will have no choice but to file a defamation suit against, ironically, the Anti-Defamation League. If they lose the defamation suit, we will insist that they drop the anti part of their name, since obviously, so they'd be the Defamation League. He says, to clear our, right, so he goes on to say, to clear our platform's name. This is, these tweets are like all over the place because Elon was just responding to people. He was tweeting and he was responding, and a lot of times he responded with a lot of the same things. So I'm trying to follow along here and kind of give you this story in detail. This person then tweeted out, ALX tweeted out, wouldn't be the first time the Defamation League would be found to have defamed people. Says judge finds ADL $10.5 million in Colorado defamation suit. Elon says, interesting, in our case, they would potentially be on the hook for destroying half the value of the company. So roughly $22 billion. Whoa, okay. $22 billion is definitely a lot more than $10.5 million. And if Anti-Defamation League, if it is true that they have done what Elon Musk has claimed, that they have prevented advertisers, that they have intimidated them, maybe lied to them, wrongfully somehow strong-armed them to no longer advertise on Twitter, and the reasoning is false, then the Anti-Defamation League could be held liable for those damages. Elon then goes on to say, based on what we've heard from advertisers, ADL seems to be responsible for most of our revenue loss. Giving them maximum benefit of the doubt, I don't see any scenario where they're responsible for less than 10% of the value destruction. So that's $4 billion. Document discovery of all communications between the ADL and advertisers will tell the full story. So it sounds like he's pretty serious. If he's saying that we've got documented discovery and this is going to tell the full story, and that they would at least be responsible for 10% of Twitter's demise, of advertising demise, and that being $4 billion, that's quite a bit of money. That would take down the Anti-Defamation League. He goes on to say, advertisers avoid controversy. So all that is needed for ADL to crush our US and European ad revenue is to make unfounded accusations. They have much less power in Asia, so our ad revenue there is still strong. This controversy causes advertisers to pause, but that pause is permanent until ADL gives the green light, which they will not do without us agreeing to secretly suspend or shadow ban any account they don't like. That is the relationship they've had with X/Twitter for many years. Presumably, they've had this with all Western search or social media orgs. And also, apparently, according to Mario Nafal, Elon Musk is going to release a giant data dump of censorship requests by the ADL trying to censor certain accounts on Twitter. So he says that this was in reply to Libs of TikTok, who was expressing concern about thousands of users who'd been suspended, throttled, silenced, and shadow banned. And he says that he's going to be filing this lawsuit against the ADL, and that he apparently is going to be unleashing a lot of the data, kind of the Twitter files ADL version is what we could be expecting in the near future, where he really puts them on blast and shows how much censorship they've been able to be at the forefront of when it comes to Twitter over the years. Simon Atiba, friend of the show, says many are calling for the head of Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, to be banned from X after he called Tucker Carlson an obvious anti-Semite and asked Elon Musk and Linda Yak to deplatform him from X, claiming he's spreading hate. He often labels people and platforms on the right as full of hate while he's full of love. Free speech and alternative views to him seem like hate. What do you think? These are the old posts of him that they've dug up. So here's Jonathan Greenblatt. Here's one of the old posts of him saying Twitter should not give those like Tucker Carlson who promote extremism and conspiracy theories a free platform to amplify their dangerous inflammatory views. My latest for JD Forward on Twitter must deplatform Carlson. So he was calling for the deplatforming of Tucker Carlson. He then goes on to say if Linda Yak, that's the Linda Yaccarino is the CEO of Twitter. If Linda Yak wants to attract Fortune 500 advertisers and Elon Musk wants to create a genuine public square, it might be wise not to give this obvious anti-Semite such a huge megaphone. Let Tucker and his ilk push their hate somewhere else. So he's really pushing for Tucker Carlson to be deplatformed from Twitter. Here's another tweet from ALX. He then asked this question and Elon responds to it. He says, head of the Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, called Tucker Carlson an obvious anti-Semite, and demanded he be deplatformed from X. Should Tucker sue the ADL for defamation too? And Elon Musk actually responded, Tucker is welcome to join our suit, is what he said. Before that, Jonathan has said a lot of things about Tucker Carlson. Some of the tweets that he has said is, for years, Tucker slyly wove anti-Jewish conspiracies into his show on Fox News, attacking George Soros, slandering Paul Singer, and making other unfounded claims. Now the mask is fully off. So basically, Jonathan is saying you're not allowed to criticize or go after anyone who's Jewish. And if you do, if they happen to be Jewish, then you are anti-Semitic, because even though the attacks on George Soros are never about him being Jewish, it's about him being rich and him taking that money and funding a bunch of Democrat and liberal causes. That's the where people are irked with George Soros. It has nothing to do with him being Jewish, but because he's Jewish, I guess it's anti-Semitic to call him out for anything. He said he also opened his new show on Twitter by describing Zelensky as sweaty and rat-like and a persecutor of Christians. Complete lie. Even if you disagree with U.S. foreign policy, invoking anti-Semitic imagery and tropes is a perverse and prejudicial way to build a case. So calling Zelensky sweaty and rat-like and a persecutor of Christians is somehow anti-Semitic. I don't know. But I want to show you, this is an old clip. This is from a movie that was put out back in 2009, I believe. And this is from, where did I put my notes on this exactly? This is, oh, here it is. Defamation is this movie. This is where a Yov Shamir actually examined, this was actually a tweet that was put out by Max Blumenthal, and he found this clip, and I want to share it with you guys because it really showcases the ADL. People think the ADL is doing this great work. They're combating anti-Semitism, and there's all this anti-Semitism in America, and we need groups like the ADL, and then the ADL to then go and pressure platforms like Twitter. It's a must. They must do this because the anti-Semitism is so thick and terrible, and it's just got to be dealt with. Well, this Israeli filmmaker, actually went and investigated the ADL and asked them for some cases of what they were dealing with. He's asking about those cases, and this is what he discovered the ADL was dealing with.
According to the ADL reports from the last couple of years, the average number of anti-Semitic incidents in the US is around 1,500 a year. I'm hoping Joel Levy can help me find a case I'll be able to follow.
What I'd like to do is to follow a case.
I understand, yeah.
Every film needs like a drive. And once we have like a case that we can follow, so that would be great.
We're going over the fresh data collected over the last couple of weeks to see if there's anything I will be able to film.
We have received in the last week or so someone who employment case, someone who wasn't able to take days off for the holiday, someone who is a school teacher and wanted days off for Shavuot, someone who is a nursing student and had some issues with taking time off as well as with taking time off. We also got a phone call from someone who was complaining about a website that had anti-Semitic remarks on it. Someone who was complaining about an article in the newspaper who they thought had anti-Semitic undertones. And I mean, that seems to be the roundup.
And that's what we've had in the last 2 weeks.
weeks.
Those are the kinds of incidents that we've had recently. 5 in 2 weeks. So there's no way to predict.
There wasn't anything suitable from the last 2 weeks. So Joel Levy tries to help me to find a case.
What they're looking for is an incident that they might be able, and they will do all the contact work, but an incident they might be able to follow, to actually see something that has happened, to go to the site, to talk to people there, to show what has happened, the impact on them, how we interact with all of that, and so on.
Assemblyman Hickind has a lot of Jewish voters in Brooklyn, and he suggested a case for me.
I had a very interesting case. Just last week, a woman went to a funeral not too far from here, thousands of people, and she heard a police officer on the phone say something to someone else, something very derogatory.
So you can see that the Anti-Defamation League is very busy with really hardcore anti-Semitic attacks on American Jews. I think that in this country there is no safer place to be than if you're here in this country and you're Jewish. I don't know where this is as safe as it gets. Jewish people are welcome here. Jewish people are completely intertwined in the fabric of America, the same as any other group of people in America. So, I do think anti-Semitism is real. I, of course, have seen very crass comments sometimes online in the comment section. I read these crass comments. We, of course, have heard of some terrible atrocities that have happened at synagogues, some mass shootings. There's, of course, these events that happen that unfortunately happen to all groups of people here in the United States. These are problems we have not been able to solve. People being rude to each other, people calling each other names, and mass shootings we have not been able to solve in this country. So there is no doubt that anti-Semitism is real in the same way that any other form of bigotry is real. But the question is it to a level that is so pervasive that it requires speech to be censored and people like Tucker Carlson to be deplatformed because they criticize somebody like George Soros? And what this filmmaker showcased is that the complaints that the ADL are receiving and the cases that they're working with are not major, big, terrible, oh my gosh, these people are under attack and there's death threats and it's horrific and they're living under this cloud of doom all the time here in the United States. It's instead somebody wasn't allowed time off for some obscure Jewish holiday, or somebody wasn't allowed, or somebody read something in a newspaper that they said felt anti-Semitic in some way. That is the type of stuff that the ADL has been dealing with. So really, it sounds like they're overblowing the problem in order to maintain a level of power and wielding that power on organizations like Twitter, and I'm sure many, many others, as Elon Musk mentioned. That is probably not just his organization, but many others as well. And that is, but here's the thing. I'm going to be called anti-Semitic for even talking about this. I'm going to be called anti-Semitic for even bringing up that, for playing that clip that Max Blumenthal tweeted out, for suggesting that anti-Semitism isn't as big of a deal as groups like the ADL make it, but so be it. If you want to call me an anti-Semite for saying that, fine. I say the same thing about racism in this country. When many people said racism was the worst, biggest, most horrific problem we're dealing with in this country, that is number one, and that's how they're voting, and that's what they're dealing with. It's just top of their mind. And I sit here as an Asian woman, and I do not think, as I walk out my front door, the biggest problem I'm going to be dealing with today is racism against me. Most people are not actually thinking that way, yet the media, these power groups, these groups that want to get something out of us, that want to control politics in America, they want to gaslight us into believing this. And I just don't buy into it, just like I don't buy into what the ADL is trying to sell when it comes to we need to censor everybody because otherwise the plight against American Jews is like, it can't be controlled any other way. It's just nonsense. And it'll be interesting to see if Elon Musk actually does a data dump on the ADL and exposes them the same way he's been able to expose the government for attempting to get in there and censor Americans. It'd be good to see these other organizations as well and expose them for strong arming and sometimes and oftentimes being very successful in that. And if it's cost us business money, then fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. All right, guys. That is it for tonight's show. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Really appreciate you being here. Glad to be back after the long weekend. We will be back again tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Until then, email me your thoughts, questions, comments. If you have guest suggestions, I would love to hear from you. Kim@KimIversen.com is how you can reach me. Otherwise, guys, have a great night. Bye-bye.